Now, what am I going to cook today, or what am I going to share with you on cooking? Well, you can see I'm cutting up a large onion, which means I'm making onion rings with an air fryer. Now, basically, it is cutting up. You need about 2 or 3 maybe large onions, preferably the yellow sweet onions, because the coloring is much better. And you can buy in the supermarket, and how much you use depends on how much you want to make or how you enjoy onion rings from an air fryer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off the onions. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do the onions, and I'm using actually 1 onion for demonstration, and we are slicing it about half an inch thickness, and after which I'm actually taking apart the rings of the onion so that we can actually fry them rather than one whole onion at a time. Now you need some other things like a wet mix, or what you call the ingredients that you can dip your onion rings in before you fry. That is the flour. You can use any flour you can buy, and that it can be any gluten-free, all-purpose. You need a little bit of water to make the breading stick to the onion rings, and so that it actually will be sticking to the onion rings when you fry it. Now you'll need a little bit of spices. I chose garlic salt, which is a combination of garlic and salt, which is much easier. And of course, if you want to have a bit of spicy taste, you need paprika. Okay. Now then you also need something else, which is what I call a dry mixture. It gives you a nice coating when you fry it, which is breadcrumbs. Well, you can choose whatever breadcrumbs that you have, and I just bought this off the supermarket. So it makes the bread very crispy, and you can actually use regular breadcrumbs if you prefer, which is what I'm doing. Now the spices you need are paprika, which is the spicy ones, the turmeric for a nice fragrance, and it also has health benefits, and a little bit of salt. So let me finish off cutting off the onions and separating the rings from each other before I commence further. Now here is the wet mix, which I've combined the flour, the paprika for the spicy, and the garlic powder, which is a little bit of salt in it, in a bowl, and then I add a little water, of course, so that you can get a little bit of watery batter. This is the garlic salt that I'm using, and this is the paprika to be spicy, a little bit of spiciness that you may want. Sometimes I adjust a little wording when you do video so that you can see it better. Haha, there it is, ground paprika. This is the wet mixture, which I'm going to be using later. Okay, and this is actually the flour. This is for frying the onion fritters, so I'm using this. So it's much easier because that's what I'm doing. I'm doing onion rings. So you have to stir until you get a good consistent mixture. This is what I call the dry mixture of it. So this is the breadcrumb, paprika again, the turmeric this time, and a little bit of garlic salt in a separate bowl. So you have actually one bowl with a wet mixture, one bowl with a dry mixture, and of course you have your flour, which you want to coat your onion rings with. So this is, I've added in parsley leaves for a little bit of herbal smell. It depends whether you like it. If you don't, you can of course not use it, or use other ingredients which you actually like. I mean, some people may have cinnamon or whatever it is. So it really depends on your taste, and you know yourself best what you require. These are the onion rings I've separated, and we are about to start. I'm going to take the onion rings, and then I'm going to try and put a little bit of flour in it so that it has a nice texture for frying. And after I have dipped the onion rings in the flour to make sure that it's evenly spread, then I'm going to next put it into the mixture, which is what I call the wet mixture, which is the paprika and the ginger salt and the flour. There it goes. That's the wet mixture which I'm going to put in to coat the onion rings with the slightly wet mixture so that it will actually stick to the onion rings. And once I've done that, then I'm going to put it into the dry mixture, which I earlier mentioned, with like the paprika, garlic salt, turmeric, and a little bit of parsley leaf, so that you actually have that little crispy coating when you fry your onion rings. See, you can actually put it into a nice bowl before you put it into your air fryer. I love the way the onion rings look. They look so beautiful, and they come apart, well, sometimes not that easily, but sometimes it is easy. So it also depends, because sometimes there is a little bit of coating or skin which you may want to remove. It really depends on you whether you feel like it, or you can just taste it as it is. See, I'm mixing up another one of the onion rings, so I'm going to have about 2 or 3 onion rings which I'm going to fry together. Make sure that it's well blended and that you coat the whole onion ring with the wet mixture before you actually then dip into the dry mixture. That is the dry mixture, which is turmeric, paprika leaf, and ginger salt, and a little bit of paprika and flour, so that when you actually air fry it, it becomes very crispy with the breadcrumbs and the coating. Okay, putting the second ring into a clean bowl. There it is. Now, am I going to put a third one? I think so. Yeah, I will look for one that is a nice shape. Somehow you got to find your onion ring that has a certain shape to do the frying so that it looks good anyway for your tasting. As for the rest of the onion rings that are left, you can always use them to do cooking, or you can maybe add them to the can of sardines which you have when you open it, and then you can cook a little bit with chili, which is very nice and tasty, and which I love actually. So none of the onion will be wasted. This is the wet mixture, as I mentioned. Make sure that you coat it properly and that it covers your whole onion ring well, rather than on the outside you have and inside it's not coated. So it really makes sure that you actually have it evenly distributed. Okay, I'm transferring the third onion ring into the dry mixture, which I mentioned before. So this one will give you that crumbs taste, which I think many people love with when they have the onion rings. You know, the crispy crumbs you have when you eat onion rings. That's how it's done. Alright, I think I'm more or less finished with all the 3 rings. So I'm going to transfer all the 3 rings into a clean bowl before I put it into the air fryer. Use a little bit of aluminium foil on the bottom of the air fryer so that it doesn't stick and it's easy to clean. I've also got a little oil spray, which is light olive oil. Don't use extra virgin olive oil because it may burn and may not be very healthy when it's at high temperature, which the air fryer is normally at. So I've got 3 rings. I've got it, and I'm going to put it into the air fryer. Now you can put it in for about 400 or 450 degrees for about 12-15 minutes, depends on you. But what I do is normally I put it at the lower temperature of about 200 to make sure that I don't burn it. And after a few minutes, about 6 minutes or so, I will then look at it again to make sure that it doesn't become overburnt, or that it can be a nice color, and you can spray it with a little bit of olive oil which I'm using to make them extra crisp. So it's cooking now. Okay, so I'm opening up after about 6 minutes. to look at the mixture, and the onion rings are still fairly white, although they have started to be more burnt or slightly cooked, but it's still fairly white. Of course, it's still early times, and I'm using the spray again to make it a bit more crispy, and so there's a bit more moisture before I put it back into the air fryer again to further deep fry to the end of the 12 to 15 minutes. It depends on you. I mean, it depends on how well you like it fried, how you like the color of the onion rings when it's done. Now it's about 3 minutes left. It's countdown time. See how good the onion rings will look like after I've completed it. Note the temperature here is 200 degrees, which I'm using it at a lower temperature because I just want to control, make sure that it doesn't overburn. If you are confident, you can actually use, for example, 400 and 450 degrees and cook it for about 12 to 15 minutes and make it sure that it's cooked properly. But I like to keep a lookout and see that it's burned and not overburnt, which once you overburn it, then it's very hard to fix and repair it. Looks like a nice color. Look at it, it look good, very nice, not too brown, and the crumbs look good. I'm gonna put it in for another few minutes, 200 degrees, 3 minutes. It's coming down, 3 minutes coming down, 47 seconds. It's coming down to the final browning. It's so much fun when you do your own onion rings compared to what you can get from maybe one of the McDonald's or so, but it's really up to you what you want to have. You can actually make your own, and you can have it anytime you like. You don't have to go to the shop and buy it, or you don't have to call in for service, but you can have your own, and you can control the texture, the color, whatever it is that you like. It's counting down to 13 seconds, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo! And I'm taking out the tray. The good thing about air fryer is that when you take out the tray, it automatically stops, and then when you put the tray back in, it will start again. That's so wonderful. So I'm taking the onion rings out. They're a bit stuck, I think, to the bottom of the aluminium tray. So I am using a spoon and fork to separate it and then lift it up. It looks very nice and very good, and looks crispy and not oily as when you try and deep fry yourself in an frying pan or whatever with a lot of oil. That is very oily and not so healthy. This is very dry and nicely cooked, and you can enjoy this for yourself anytime you feel like having onion rings for yourself. So these are the equipment that I use: air fryer, and here are the onion rings, and of course you have your ingredients: the dry mixture, wet mixture, flour, and the spices that I use, and the oil bottle which I bought from Shopee, and it sprays very nicely from what I see, so I quite enjoy it. And those are the breadcrumbs that I bought. So it's actually a good mixture that I put together today to cook and share this with you, and I hope you can try it yourself.